in Sri Lanka we have a Securities and Exchange Commission Act, right? When has an individual been taken
enforcement
into custody?
Enforcement is one
with
thing.
regard to conflict of interest, and then we say there are millionaires coming from the stock market.
So listen,
Tell me one instance. Now,
my point is this:
with regard to enforcement, you are talking about the 3%. Let's talk about generally with the laws that are already prevalent in the country.
No, you're talking about the conviction. No, I'm talking about even coming into the system, because they fall off. That's what I'm saying. But I'll come back to the point I was saying. Section 19, because there's a lot of influences that come into the country, and we talk about, Doc also said it, personation. Now, what if they do satire? What if they do some sort of parody? And there are content creators out there who do it right now itself. Are we to say that now those chaps also, and certainly they make a living out of it because of the views and certainly the income they generate, are we to say that they fall under this? Because there are people out there who personate, Doctor, themselves as political figures, yes? So are we to say that these guys are also to be, because somebody might see it, like Doc said, and go and make a complaint?
There's a whole series of provisions where the platform companies can be ordered to disclose the identities of various people.
Exactly.
And then they will be subject to penalties if they don't disclose.
Exactly. So imagine if you are running a parody account, let's say on X or Twitter, will you ask them to now disclose who you are with your, and of course
based on this you have to.
You have to.
And what about fake account?
But the thing is whether they can or not, because see, my question always was, now let's take India for instance. In 2021, India brought what they call short form internet rules, right? Very insidious rules, which said, for instance, that the tech companies had to appoint a resident Indian as their enforcement officer, and he could be criminally liable. So it was a way of holding them hostage. Within 3 days of the government demanding that a platform take down information, they had to take it down. They had to even provide details of individuals if the government so requested. Now you would have imagined that the tech companies, big tech, would have pushed back. Not really. They didn't. Right? But that's also because India is a massive market, and we compare that to Sri Lanka. Frankly, they don't have to abide by anything, because there they said they gave 3 months for them to implement it. They did not. They thought they could push back on it. They could not. They abided by it. Twitter didn't, because Twitter didn't in 3 months. What they did is Twitter lost its intermediary status, which meant that anything posted on Twitter would be liable for it. Right?
Yeah.
So you thought big tech, but immediately what did they do when they lost the status? They abided by it. So the status was restored, right? So hoping that big tech would push back is a bit of a dream if we look at what's happening within the region. But of course, our saving grace is that we aren't a huge market like India, and therefore there is no need for them to abide by any of this, right? How is the government going to enforce it?
If I'm not mistaken,